who is the real culprit behind the India's infrastructure crisis that we have been seeing in recent years. What is the L1 bidding system and what is the importance of infrastructure development for an economy to become a developed one? Another bridge has collapsed and now it is the second time that we are seeing such a big incident in Gujarat. Hello everyone, welcome to Vajiram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh and today we are not just going to talk about this particular bridge collapse, but we are going to look into a bigger picture where we'll just understand what is the importance of infrastructure in terms of Viksit Bharat and 5 trillion economy that we are trying to become, and also how far we are from this picture of the infrastructure development and its sustainability. And finally, we are also going to find the real culprit and understand that how long that it has been inside the infrastructure and rotting it from inside. So let us begin with the understanding of the importance in terms of infrastructure development for any economy. When we talk about any economy, we have to understand that putting money in infrastructure is like investment. The more you will invest, the better returns you will find. And when we are talking infrastructure, it is not just in a specific direction, but in the multiple ways you can invest and find gains from it. So when we are talking about the physical infrastructure, it can be road infrastructure, railways infrastructure, airport infrastructure. We are referring to the all physical infrastructure here, and we have to understand that it is the one which forms the backbone of the economy. आपको बिल्कुल वैसे ही देखना है कि जैसे आप किसी भी ब्रिज के पिलर्स अगर देखते हैं, तो ये जो पिलर्स हैं आप इसको इमेजिन कीजिए, ये इन्वेस्टमेंट है इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में, और जो कनेक्टिविटी मिलेगी वो जो है वो यहाँ पे रिटर्न्स हमारी इकोनॉमी को मिलेंगे. इसीलिए इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को ना यहाँ पे बैकबोन ऑफ द इकोनॉमी भी कहा जाता है. और यहाँ पर जब हम इंडिया को बात कर रहे हैं टू मेक इट अ 5 ट्रिलियन इकोनॉमी एंड वी आर ट्राइंग टू पुश टू लीव कंट्रीज अफार, तो यहाँ पर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पे फोकस करना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है, बिकॉज ये सिर्फ इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ ही नहीं देता है. यहाँ पे अगर आप नंबर्स के तौर पे देखें तो अगर हम 1 रुपए जो है इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पे स्पेंड करते हैं तो 2.5 से 3 रुपए, दैट मीन्स इफ वी स्पेंड 1 रुपी ऑन इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर वी आर गेटिंग 2.5 to 3.5 in terms of GDP gain. And if we talk about the upcoming financial year of 2025-26, the estimated infrastructure expenditure that we will be seeing is going to be somewhere around 11 lakh crores. I'm not going to get into the details of the number. I just want to give you a fair idea that what is the cruciality, significance of infrastructure development. The second thing, it enhances connectivity and transport, and it also reduces the logistic costs, especially if in terms of India, the logistic costs stand double as compared to the global average, and we need to reduce the logistic cost if we want to become a nation that has competitive export goods. Other than that, it facilitates inclusive growth, better quality of life, and if we are talking about sustainable development and green infrastructure, it is very much required that we start with basic infrastructure. जहाँ में हम ये क्लियरली समझ रहे हैं कि इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर जो है बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, वहीं पे आज हमें ये देखने के लिए मिल रहा है कि इंडिया में वडोदरा में और गुजरात में तो ये दूसरा बड़ा इंसिडेंट है आफ्टर द मोरबी ब्रिज एक्सीडेंट, जहाँ पे ये ब्रिज जो है बीच में से, फंक्शनल ब्रिज जो है वो बीच में से कोलैप्स कर गया है, एंड यहाँ पे कार्स जो थी दे हैव ड्राउन्ड इन द रिवर. And this incident has happened early in the morning. Now, if we talk about this incident, this is basically the Gambhira Bridge that we see on the Mahisagar River, and this has caused 9 casualties, 9 deaths have been there, and the reason it is because it is one of the main connecting routes if we talk about between Surat to Saurashtra. So here we have to understand central Gujarat connectivity to Saurashtra has been compromised. There have been 9 deaths that we have seen, and the connectivity, the main connecting link this bridge is between central Gujarat and Saurashtra, which has been compromised. Now, this goes beyond the lives lost. If you are looking beyond that, there is also economic loss. there is also lives which have been lost. It also points towards the loopholes that exist in administration, governance, and as well as infrastructure development, basic infrastructure development. Now, this is not a single isolated incident. I can show you multiple incidents that have occurred in recent past, but if we talk about this particular incident, there have been key infrastructure flaws that have been highlighted. The recent periodic maintenance was done, but it did not had proper structural audits, and the environmental stressors were high. There was excessive rain. Furthermore, the river was also overflowing. So this is expected to be a trigger. And that shows that when we are working on infrastructure, we are not thinking about climate resilience and accordingly retrofitting the infrastructure as per the requirement. Now let us look at incidents which clearly highlight the India's infrastructure crisis that is clearly ongoing. So if we look at these images, the crisis that we're talking about infrastructure is not limited to one area. If we talk about bridges and tunnel, this is an image from the Morbi bridge collapse that happened in Gujarat. Now, this was not again a singular incident. There have been multiple bridge collapses that have been happening in Bihar over multiple rivers. Other than that, we have also seen infrastructure falling down. This is not any random airport. This is the airport of the capital of our nation where the pillar had fallen down. Other than that, there is Jabalpur airport where the canopy had fallen down, which also resulted in deaths. Then there are urban failures. This is in Mumbai, financial capital of our country, where there was a lift crash that happened and took lives. Other than that, look at the capital city where we had a newly made Pragati Maidan tunnel which is already flooding. Where we see Bangalore flooding, we also see Gurgaon flooding, even with basic amount of rain because there is no drainage present. And then we also have Mumbai pipeline burst. Now these incidents that I am laying out for you, these are the incidents that have happened in past 2 years, and there are many others which have not made it to the presentation, which have probably not made it to the news as well. But the idea here is to make you realize when we talk about infrastructure development, Viksit Bharat, we talk about developed economy, these are the images or incidents we are not expecting to see. So what is the cause behind it? ये आ कहाँ से रहा है और ये हो क्यों रहा है और अभी तक हम इसे ठीक क्यों नहीं कर पाए हैं? So the real culprit that lies behind these incidents is the L1 bidding system. L1 bidding system is one of the primary causes where when we are talking about infrastructure failures, big infrastructure failures, we are seeing that. Now, what exactly is L1 bidding system? In simple words, bidding system is that, for example, if you have to get a contract, n number of people will put in their bids, and as per the rule, the contract will be given to someone. Now, what is L1 bidding system? Now, this is a awarding public contractor to lowest bidder. So let's just say यहाँ पे हमारे पास 10 bidders हैं और इनमें से सबसे लोवेस्ट अमाउंट 100 रुपए का यहाँ पर बोला गया है. इस बिडर ने बोला है कि ये जो पब्लिक प्रोजेक्ट है मैं 100 रुपए में बना के दूंगा और ये सबसे छोटा अमाउंट है. तो जो जहां पे गवर्नमेंट को दिख रहा है सबसे कम खर्चा होगा, गवर्नमेंट उस बिडर को ये प्रोजेक्ट जो है दे देगी. और यही मेथड जो है पिछले हमें 70 सालों से देखने को मिल रहा है और ये एक डोमिनेंट मॉडल आज भी है, स्पेशली जब हम इंडिया में पब्लिक प्रोक्योरमेंट और पब्लिक प्रोजेक्ट्स की बनने की बात करते हैं. नाउ दैट वी हैव अंडरस्टूड दिस L1 बिडिंग सिस्टम, यहाँ पे और भी मल्टीपल फ्लॉज हैं, बट ये बिडिंग सिस्टम इतना बड़ा फ्लॉ जो है वो क्यों कंसिडर किया जा रहा है? सो जब हम L1 बिडिंग सिस्टम के बारे में बात करेंगे तो इसमें प्रॉब्लम्स जो है एक नहीं कई सारी हैं. जैसे कि सबसे पहले यहाँ पर क्वालिटी कॉम्प्रोमाइज जो है हमें देखने को मिलता है. यहाँ पे जो भी बिडर होगा वो अपना प्राइस जो है डाइव डाउन करने के लिए, अपनी बिड को सबसे कम रखने के लिए यहाँ पे मटेरियल कॉम्प्रोमाइज करता है और सेफ्टी स्टैंडर्ड्स को कॉम्प्रोमाइज करता है, जिसकी वजह से जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पहली बार नया बन भी रहा है वो भी ठीक नहीं बनेगा. फॉर एग्जाम्पल प्रगति मैदान टनल, ड्रेनेज इज द वन ऑफ द बेसिक रिक्वायरमेंट्स, where we are talking about, even Delhi does not see the heaviest rainfalls, but basic drainage is required. So when we are focusing on cutting cost, you will be laying off safety standards, you will be going off safety standards. Other than that, it is basically a race to the bottom. Why? Because bidders have to quote the lower price. That means they, in order to come up with the lower price, they underquote to win the particular contract. Now, if they win the contract, later what they will do to lower the price, which is realistically not possible, they will cut down on the essential things which are required. And another thing that is highlighted, that the sustainability of infrastructure is totally let gone off. When we talk about sustainability, basically all the eco-friendly materials or the long-term maintenance which is to be taken care of, which is to be kept in mind when we are creating the infrastructure, it is already excluded because the costs will not allow it. Now the problem herein, this is what leads to no innovation. This is what leads to lack of proper environmental impact assessment, and this is also responsible for lack of resilience planning. For example, if the design has to take in consideration the extreme scenarios, the changing temperatures, the rainfall or seismic risk related to earthquakes or anything at all, that cannot be considered. Why? Because the bidder is already trying to undercut the price. If he has got a lesser price, he has to accommodate all of this. When they have to accommodate all of this, they are not thinking of the long-term maintenance. You can see the short-sightedness in the development of such projects because they are to be completed in limited money and limited time as well. And basically, this method is a classical case study where the government itself is giving incentives to take shortcuts. What do I mean by this? For example, if we say poor EAI compliance, when we are talking about environmental impact assessment, we are talking about audits and minimal life cycle costing. This all happens because the bidder does not have the money, the contractor does not have the money, and when he will take shortcuts, when he'll keep the price to the lowest, that is how he will win the contracts. Even though there are a lot of conversations about changing the system, there is still no big change that we see here. This is one of the most dominant methods that stand at present, and the results were the images that I had just shown. And other than that, we have also seen other incidents where the reports have already come out, where the cause has been identified. For example, Kolkata Vivekanand flyover, in 2016 we saw the collapse. It was a L1 contract where we found substandard material used, and this was the reason of the collapse that was seen in Kolkata. Now, this is not something that we see in recent years. This has been present. It's just that it has started to make a mark in social media more, in news more, but it is still not reaching to the ears of people that it needs to, and the reforms that we need so as to ensure that we are realistically following the infrastructure development that is required. Because you have to understand, this image, this system shows the gap or how far we are standing from the actual infrastructural level that is required in our country if we actually want to become the Viksit Bharat, the developed economy that we are talking about. Now, what can be done? How can the system be fixed? So, when we are talking about the system, we have to understand one of the primary problems remains the L1 bidding system. We need to change it. How change it? We need to focus on something that brings in the quality aspect as well, and it has also the factor of money where it is lowest. So, for example, Ministry of Road Transport has already decided to move towards technical qualification and fixed cost model. So, where the person who is the bidder, he has proper technical qualifications and there will be a fixed cost associated with the public procurement. Such ideas where the selection is quality based as well as of course monetarily based, that needs to be brought in. Other than that, at the same time, when we are talking about the bids, there has to be multiple criterias, not just the money or capital, but it needs to be evaluated what they are doing in terms of quality, climate resilience, what are the past experiences, because in terms of bidding, as of now, past experiences are not taken account, and what are the sustainability metrics of the infrastructure that is developing. Other than that, with changing climate, the climate change that we are seeing, climate resilience becomes an important thing. So mandatory climate risk assessment, so that all DPRs must consider extreme weather projections and the infrastructure that is created can bear such extreme conditions once it is made. Just because the climate change is happening, it doesn't mean that particular building, that particular bridge, that particular canopy must tumble down. Other than that, we can also see that there are provisions and suggestions to bring in independent third-party monitoring, so that when we are talking about quality control, once the infrastructure is up, the real-time environmental as well as structural audits, which was lacking in the Vadodara incident that we have just seen, is proper there. Public should also be brought in as a stakeholder, where we are having environmental impact assessment. They should be transparent, as well as the participatory planning processes should be reinstated. Other than that, we have to also bring in the long-term life cycle costing. That means the designs that are being put forward, they shouldn't be short-sighted, rather they should be focusing on how the sustainability, longevity as well as the climate resilience can be maintained. Now, you must be thinking that when we are talking about Viksit Bharat and we are looking at today's condition, there are other things which are more important than bridges, railways, airports. Yes, they are. But you know why this requires the immediate need of attention, or why it is the need of our? Because the implications are high. The stakes which are present are high. What are the stakes that we are seeing? For example, in terms of human lives, if you see, since last 3 years, 500 lives we have lost just because of infrastructure failures. Other than that, economic impact. It not only disrupts routes, it brings in litigation, it brings in insurance claims. There is a lot of rework of the infrastructure that is required. That is loss of the public money, the money that you guys pay in taxes. Furthermore, there is environmental harm and the reputation crisis, not just for the government, but for our country, where we have committed in G20, we have committed in COP28, we have committed in SDG about resilient infrastructure. Now, that was all from my side. I will leave you with a question here. What do you think are challenges that we have seen and they have been persistent in terms of infrastructure development, except for L1 bidding system? You can put down your answers in the comment section. That was all from my side. Thank you so much.